Thank you all so much for coming tonight to this Senscapes performance, which is our first. There's a hell of a lot of you, which is really good, because we've obviously completely sold out, which is amazing. So you've all contributed to donating to Mind charity. Thank you so much for that. And today we're going to try and take you through a bit of a narrative of the psychedelic experience as told through the data recorded from the brains of those in the trials who took psilocybin, which is the active ingredient in magic mushrooms. So in a moment, we're going to very orderly and very slowly make our way into this kind of central cocoon bit where we've constructed a place where you're going to be immersed in music and art that is completely generated from the brainwaves of those in these trials. So we're ready to go into this central part where we're going to hopefully immerse you in the story of people who are in this trial taking psilocybin, and maybe some of the transformative effect that might have been able to give them in their battle against depression. so much for taking part in the first part. I hope it was immersive enough for you, and we hope everyone kind of got a go in the middle of the action. So moving on to our second part now, where we have all these experts sitting with me, and we're going to have some discussion covering science, experience, and art to do with psychedelic experience. So, I am always a fan of letting people introduce themselves, just because I think they do probably a far better job than I'm going to do, even though I do have my notes on it, so I promise it's not like that, but like a preparation. So I'm just going to go around from right to left, and yeah.
Hi everybody, my name is Chris Zimmerman. I am not on the list because I sort of got a job. Joe invited me yesterday to be part of the panel. And I'm part of the peer psychedelic research group along with other panelists here, where we study the effects of psychedelics in human consciousness and we use them as therapeutic tools. Personally, I'm a psychologist and neuroscientist, and I am currently heading a study in which we use EMT as a tool also to probe into the mechanisms of consciousness, which involves phenomenologies of experience and brain unequal parts.
And my name is David Rizzo. I am on the event in this beautiful poster. Very proud. And I'm glad that Chris is here as well because he knows a lot about some things that might come up if some people start asking very technical EEG-ish questions, and I'm very sure that Chris is sitting here as well. I'm a psychiatrist and neuroscientist and have been involved with Robin Carhart, who's sort of leading the psychedelic research team. I have, since the beginning of his time in London, been working alongside him doing other stuff as well with brain imaging, PET and MRI, not just psychedelics but all sorts of psychopharmacology related to addiction and lately more into depression, and been clinically involved in the studies we have been conducting, also the trial in depression.
My name's Irie, and I took part in the psilocybin for depression study at Imperial. It's coming on for 2 years ago now. I'll talk about it more later, but it had a really fundamental effect on me. Suffered from depression for much of my adult life, and it's the thing that's worked for me most to date.
Hello, I am Rose. I am a clinical psychologist in the same team as everybody else so far. I was involved in the psilocybin for depression study as a guide. We call therapists guides, although it's actually probably the best word for it because you're not really guiding anyone anywhere. You're just following or observing really. And then at the moment I'm planning the next study, so we're starting our Psilocybin for depression 2. It's about to start very soon, so at the moment I'm planning that. It's lots of logistics, so it's very nice to be here in a creative, inspiring, beautiful chapel.
Hi everyone, I'm Selen. I am a neuroscientist at the University of Oxford. I think I'm the only one not from Imperial at the panel today, but we are collaborating with Imperial College on analyzing the psychedelic data sets using some kind of a new technique actually that really nicely links to the visuals that we observe tonight, which is very, very beautiful. So we are analyzing the psychedelic data sets using the harmonic patterns emerging in the brain. And my research generally focuses on consciousness and all types of altered states, including psychedelic states, meditation, and sleep. And we did get some kind of really nice findings last year from looking at LSD dataset, and now we are starting the research on the psilocybin data applied for depression. So quite excited on that.
Thanks very much. I just want to say a massive thank you also to all of you for giving me the time and coming here to talk to these lovely people about your research, about your experiences. So we're going to kick off probably with a question about science that I think maybe neuroscientists might want to tackle, but of course anyone can jump in. So the first question is, what does current theory say about how psychedelics affect the brain? Who would like to take this?
Yes, I mean we have done a lot of different kinds of imaging. So I think first of all you can speak about the subjective experiences that people have that has nothing to do with the imaging. Then you can combine sort of psychological effects, subjective experiences with different scales, rating scales, and relate that to imaging data. Some of it is a bit tricky because it can be sort of very broad, abstract phenomena that people are experiencing. It might be difficult to sort of pin down to a single thing in the brain. And we're also limited by the techniques, so it all depends what technique we are applying and how do we relate the different things we see with different techniques and all that. And it's in the early stages, but what we, I guess, can say from particularly the data that we have from functional magnetic resonance, fMRI, we can see that the brain's, the functional networks, and what is a functional network? It's sort of, back in the days, you looked at the brain and looked at the activity just as a single block that was lighting up when the brain did something. But more lately, people have reckoned that it's not just one area doing one thing, it's a collaboration between areas that are, through development, learning to sort of engage in activity together in a synchronized way. And by looking at it that way, there are different networks in the brain appearing, and the psychedelic experience while people are tripping, then some of these networks, they change, they start sort of floating in, merging into each other, so the separation between the different networks that normally exist are broken down, probably promoting this sort of bit chaotic state of the psychedelics and feeling that maybe you start being part of something bigger, the sense of oneness that potentially can be explained by some of these things that we see in the brain, where the system in the brain that is active when we self-reflect and daydream, that represents ourselves in a way, starts floating into other brain networks. So that's some of what happens. Another thing, very briefly, is that on a pharmacological level, if we look at receptors in the brain, then there's a very specific receptor in the serotonin system, which is a system very important for regulating the mood, and that receptor is the receptor that the psychedelics mainly work through. So if you block that receptor, you take away the psychedelic experience. And then the relationship between pharmacology, these receptors, and these more sort of higher scale network data, we don't really know yet, but we are trying to find out by creating a new study, maybe with psilocybin perturbation 3, which will be, if we get the money, a fancy imaging study trying to combine some of these imaging techniques to relate these things to each other.
Thanks, and actually I think this relates quite highly to your work, sir. I was lucky enough to come and visit you in your lab in Oxford, and then you gave a great presentation about how harmonic resonance can be understood as a factor of what you're talking about in terms of consciousness breaking down and looking at the networks changing as people go through this experience. I wonder if you could talk a little bit maybe about that.
So maybe I start with just very briefly telling you what this harmonic analysis means, what we did. So all the patterns that we observed, I believe, are kind of harmonic patterns which are created on, for example, if you take a metal plate and put sand on it, and if you let the plate vibrate at one of its natural frequencies, the sand is going to form the complex patterns, and we observed them on different materials here tonight. And for this analysis, what we did was we first of all created these patterns in the brain. So we asked the question, if the brain in a way vibrated with its activity, what would these patterns look like? And the nice thing about them is they kind of give you a new harmonic language, so you can describe brain activity in that new language. And when we did that for the LSD dataset and compared to placebo, we saw kind of really encouraging and remarkable differences between the two states. So it seemed like LSD really expanded the repertoire of these harmonic brain states. So in a way, under the influence of the psychedelics, your brain was able to use many more of its potential patterns, which I believe very closely links to the resting state networks disappearing as well. And when we looked at the different types of dynamics, what kind of the data or the results indicate is in your brain under the effect of psychedelics, there seems to be a reorganization happening. So our brain activity is generally organized into these patterns or into different patterns. And they repeat after a certain period of time. And under the influence of psychedelic, the repertoire expands and the brain seems to become in a way more creative. So if you imagine each of them kind of corresponding to a musical note. So what seems to be happening under the influence of psychedelics is that your brain is becoming like an improvising jazz musician. You don't know what it's going to create, and it doesn't know probably what it's going to create. So it comes with this kind of a spontaneous and complex order that is way more complex compared to the normal resting state brain activity.
Thanks very much. Very interesting stuff. Yeah, relates very well. And I hope this next question, I think Chrissy and Ross might have quite different opinions on this. It's quite interesting saying. But would you say that the effects of psychedelics are deeply personal and individual? Or would you say there's a common thread kind of running through everyone's experience when they're having that journey? Who would like this first?
I would say the answer for that in terms of subjective experiences is in a way both. So there are good reasons to think that what's happening under a psychedelic state in a way is like increasing the noise in the system. So you're increasing the amount of possibilities of phenomenal experiences people have, and this corresponds, at least nicely and conceptually to the idea that different brain states are possible, different resonant frequencies are possible, and it also corresponds to something that we see with EEG data, which is very similar to the data you saw here with DMT. The brain, the dictionary of states, if you make up a dictionary, the amount of brain states under DMT increases in a massive sort of way. And you could say something very generic about the experience in that same way. You just have more experiences. However, when you really push the system and you get high doses of DMT that we've done in the past, you see some common themes emerging. And again, this is a bit speculative, but I think this really also relates to the idea of reorganization of the brain. So the idea is that you're pushing more information, more noise into the system. It's like a synthesizer, you put more noise into the system and then a new sound emerges. And a very sort of similar thing happens, I think, with high levels of DMT, in which there are common threads, and some of these common threads relate to a certain process more than a content. So what are these processes? For example, people start having strong bodily experiences, and then the bodily awareness completely disappears, and then it starts emerging. So this happens in strong doses. Or other visual experiences, everybody sees at the beginning of the experience, or we, at least our subjects, they see these geometrical patterns. And then these geometrical patterns are kind of like your palette of colors in which different experiences evolve from that. So it's almost like, if you think of it in a way of brain activities, at the beginning you're getting the colors, and that seems to be very common across participants, There's this feeling in the body, there's these geometrical patterns. And then the content that emerges from that, some people see faces, some people see scenes, or some people are traveling through gateways of dimensions, etc. That seems to be a bit more personal. But it seems that this initial sort of thing, this thread, appears to be relatively stable across our participants. But that is, of course, different in clinical application, I'm sure Ross has good insight.
Yeah, I was just going to say I can only really relate to my own experiences, whereas you've got experience of many different subjects that you've observed or whatever. But I guess as far as is there a common thread, I only know from what I've read elsewhere about that feeling of oneness, that feeling of connection that I've read other people have experienced was something that I experienced myself during the trial on psilocybin. But I think it's important to say though that that's not a guarantee that you will get that sort of blissful feeling of oneness. I was lucky enough to have that myself. Just tying into the previous question really about different harmonics, you talking about it being like a freestyle jazz musician. I think depression is very much like somebody just jabbing the same note over and over and over again, you know, and all you want to do is to stop that or change the note or, you know, so, and psilocybin definitely allowed me to, change the tune, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, overall, the theme, the psychological themes that are most common from our last study were, just as Ian said, this feeling of connectedness. So people describe going from being very disconnected from themselves and from other people in the world around them to feeling very connected, both in the experience itself and also afterwards. And the second theme was about going from avoiding emotion to accepting emotions, kind of surrender. And you probably felt a little bit of it when we were sitting in there, this feeling of it kind of washing over you. I think it was actually a really good immersive experience in kind of mimicking a bit of that feeling of just letting go. I mean, I'm fascinated by the linking between, so I'm not a neuroscientist, but I have seen the pictures that are quite famous about these multicoloured circles. I don't know if you've seen them with kind of lines, and they're these images that represent brain communication pathways, and how in the psilocybin experience, the brain becomes more connected. So I just find that fascinating that people describe the psychological connectedness. So often people will have parts of the experience where they're going kind of down into the dungeons, the kind of the emotions that they've pushed away or repressed, the things that they haven't looked at. Or they can go up to the divine and the beautiful and the awe-inspiring. But for most people, they went up and they went down at different times, and often the music seemed to trigger which direction they were going in. And I think both the directions are really important and helpful, and that people just kind of go in the direction they need to go, and you can trust the process to the direction always seems to be very accurate. And people always say afterwards, I didn't get what I wanted, but I got what I needed. So, would you say that, Ian?
I think that's the main thing, really, is the psychedelic state is a reflection of your day-to-day state in a way. So most of us do this, we cherry pick our emotions, we cherry pick our thoughts, we go, well, that's a good thought, that's a bad thought, that's a good feeling, that's a bad feeling, these are the ones I want, and these are the ones I don't want. And being in that state, I think depression is when you're so locked in that fight against the negative thoughts and feelings. But during the psilocybin experience, it was like learning that sadness is as valid as happiness. It's just another expression of human emotion. And I know that may sound really basic, but I think when you're locked in depression, anxiety, etc., you are just really trying to cut parts of yourself off, cutting it out like a cancer, really. And the whole psychedelic experience for me really helped me to accept myself on the whole, warts and all, sadness was just as valid as her happiness, like I say. So it's hard to maintain that for a very, very long time throughout the rest of your life, forevermore, but it definitely lasted me for about 3 to 6 months, and I still have that understanding. I still have the knowledge of that different approach to myself, so I can sort of call upon it if I haven't slipped too far, into the darker place.
Thank you very much. That's really quite personal and meaningful, and thank you. I suppose we have experiences like Ian, who come here today and talked about, some incredibly positive for you and very, very moving and life-changing, clearly. I suppose what I want to ask all of you is, do you think, as the field moves forward with psychedelic science, do you think this is something that is for everyone, or do you think this is something that maybe people like yourself will find incredibly useful, but for others it might not be so?
Please do, yeah.
It's just been me speaking, but I would say that it's very tempting when you hear the results of the initial study at Imperial that I was lucky enough to be part of, that this is some miracle cure for depression. I think you have to be really, really careful with that. I don't think that psychedelic therapy would be right for everyone suffering from depression. It's definitely worked really well for me, and it's worked better than any antidepressants or any therapies that I've had. But it's like saying a certain type of SSRI antidepressant is going to work for everyone. That's not the case. But I really, really believe that this needs to be added to the list of options that are available to people to offer medically.
And it's not easy, it's easy to, you can kind of imagine that it's this kind of blissful, beautiful, but then when you're with someone at that moment when they take the capsules, you can probably remember it really, really clearly, and the hell. Yeah, and they're not just, people aren't just kind of remembering difficult times or having a bit of sadness. People are absolutely slammed into the most torturous, pitiful states. And then they emerge and they tend to feel really wonderful for a few months afterwards. But it's not a walk in the park. And it's, most people afterwards say, I'm not doing that forever again, And then a few months later, they often say, actually, I would quite like to do it again. But it's not something that people, like when people talk about them being like addicted, it would take quite a person to be addicted to high-dose psilocybin experiences. Because, tough stuff, usually.
Maybe I'll add to it from the neuroscience perspective a little bit, because what we seem to be finding in the neural data, looking at LSD, mostly about the results are all replicated with psilocybin as well, so it seems to be a common thing. You're gaining more flexibility in your brain activity, so your brain seems to be more flexible in terms of exploring good and bad, all kinds of brain states, and that actually really nicely matches the descriptions of subjective experiences. But I always like to emphasize that you're losing that, you're gaining that flexibility and you're paying a price for it, and that is your stability. So you're losing stability and gaining flexibility at the same time. And I think that emphasizes the importance of set and setting, because that may create the stability that your brain dynamics are implicitly losing, that can be provided from the environment. But the nice thing to observe is really what is described in the subjective experience is actually reflected in brain dynamics as well. So you're more free to go to the bad and the good. And what you do with it, it's all up to the personal experience, I believe.
And I think going back to the idea of setting this, I think nice ties into what you asked before, Joe, which is the relationship between art and these experiences. And the idea of music as setting, as something that guides the experience, as something that provides context to this free sort of like form nature of the experience, you know, to the good and the bad. But the nice thing about art, and art has always, I think, been associated to psychedelic experiences in its cultural use, in its wider sort of use that has been studied in anthropology and so on. The connection between music and psychedelics has always been there, and it is very much serves that function of guiding, providing a setting for the experience, so that this exploration, this flexibility, is done mostly in a safe manner, but also it's something that, you know, with the right intention provides benefits from it. So if you think, for example, the use of ayahuasca for centuries has been always, like, mostly associated to Icarus, which are one meaning of Icarus is the songs that the shamans sing, and at the same time it talks about the visions that people have. So it's a very, very strong connection between, you know, the visionary experience and the guiding of the music. It's so connected that it has the same sort of word. And here I'm just also echoing a lot of the findings of our colleague, Kalen, who's done works on psychedelics and music. And he sees also very strongly this. When people are under psychedelics, hearing music, in comparison to when they're just under psychedelics, there's a connection between brain areas that are related to memory, scene construction, the history of the person, to sensory areas. So the visionary experience, in a way, could be interpreted as when there's music around, there's a stronger connection between, you know, possibly more intimate aspects of the person and whatever they're experiencing. You know, this free falling now has a context, now has a playground, a safe playground of sorts.
Maybe we can add to this that in terms of this question about whether everybody will, in theory, benefit from this treatment, is it for everybody? I mean, we know some things already about negative experience. It's a very challenging experience. It might not produce, if there's a sustained real experience, they can be not as productive at all. And also, of course, important for us is to try to, is there anything we can measure to predict who might benefit and who might not? And therefore, that's one of the roles that the very neuroscience research is important for, because we might be able to identify some biomarkers by understanding biology better and relate that to some different softer measures that we can apply before and also after the experience, but particularly before, whether there will be some things that are related to the experience. How ready are you to surrender? How neurotic are you from the beginning? How flexible? I mean, there might be different things that we're looking into all that and try to relate that to what's happening in the brain to be better at predicting. But it is, I mean, the brain becomes unpredictable. That's the whole thing. It becomes chaotic, entropic, and this psychedelic state is unpredictable. So it probably would be difficult with any certainty. Another thing I think is important at this stage of the science, the clinical application, obviously everybody, we all super enthusiastic about it. We are, you know, have a lot of expectations to it. It's fun and it's interesting both for the scientists and for the patients who dare to participate in these studies. So there's also a big element of something incredibly positive that when it, you know, is expanded out in larger scale studies and gonna hit and be offered to people who don't seek it as intensely at this very early stage, the results might also be less amazing. Obviously now I'm sounding pretty pessimistic, I didn't mean to, but you know, there's right now, you know, a great deal of enthusiasm about the novelty of these treatments that might vanish a little bit.
Apologies about banging at the door.
Thank you very much for bombarding me with those questions on the spot. I'm going to open it up now for maybe a couple of questions from the audience. If anyone has any, you two are very keen. That's great. I'm going to just stand up so I can see you, and this mic, unfortunately, I'm technologically advanced here, despite just a little bit, so I've got a wire, so you have to shout from where you are. So, I'm going to, let's go through the end, sorry.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful project, and the results is outstanding, beautiful, really great collaboration. So thank you, Joe, David, Selena. Maybe 2 questions, if you allow, quick ones. First of all, what's your plan to do with these results? So next plans, subject. What's the plans? And second, it's very related to everything you do, but I myself, I'm sound healing practitioner with Himalayan singing bowls, and we're producing documentary film. I'm looking for people like you, neuroscientists, and very graphic, so people who are in this field, to study how the singing bowls in the same way affect the mind. And there are lots of tracks, so it's depression, stroke, insomnia, it's being treated, it's being healed. Are you open to consider to collaborate something? So your plan, and if you're open to other subjects, so music.
It's all very fascinating, but unfortunately it's not necessarily a question directed to the panel, so I'm just we'll talk about that at the end, absolutely.
Okay.
But I'm going to try and find a question that maybe these guys can talk about just a little bit more detail this time. But absolutely, very, very fascinating. Yes, pink shirt.
Thank you again for coming to give us your time. You've obviously talked briefly a bit about the treatment that Ian sort of went through. I was wondering if you could perhaps elaborate a bit more on exactly what that entailed. And also, we've had a bit of a discussion about the sort of artistic and cultural. It sounds as though the treatment itself is very culturally sensitive as well, music and put into a certain sort of environment. Do you think that it would have to develop a sort of cultural significance within the wider society to be used as a treatment, or could it sort of stand alone as its own medical kind of thing?
There we go. So if I'm correct in interpreting your question, you're saying that is there need to be some sort of cultural space where this psychedelic experience can be brought forward as a bit more normalised?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the first part of your question was what the actual process was of participating in the trial. To cut a long story short, I was in an awful place for quite a long time, desperately trying to find something to help me. I came across ayahuasca, and then I know it's slightly better now, but at the time I thought what are the chances of me being able to go to the South American rainforest to take this when leaving the house some days is impossible, but it was via that, seeing ayahuasca videos about it on YouTube, that I found a lecture by Robin Carhart Harris, and then I got in touch with them at Imperial, and a few months later I was taking part in the trial. You have a certain level of prep that goes into it, so I've never filled in so many surveys in my life, but it was all questionnaires and thousands of questions overall during the whole trial. I realised just how important that side of things was. You have the general sort of medical checks as well, so blood is tested and whatever else. But you have two prep sessions with the people who are going to be your guides. So they're a little bit like intense counselling sessions, but different. It's just really kind of, given all the time in the world, it would be great to have 6 counselling sessions, then have the psilocybin, but what with the limited resources that are available, these sessions they were just basically about laying everything out on the table to an extent, which takes a bit of courage in itself, and building trust between you and your guides as well, because that's really vitally important during the actual dosing during the trips as well. So once you've gone through that, you're also introduced to the room, so you get to see the room. It's, in its normal state, it's quite a clinical, cold hospital ward almost. But as I mentioned earlier, it's been dressed up, so it's very, very warm, cosy, welcoming. You also get introduced to the music as well, so you get to lie down on the bed. You basically sort of create the sort of the trip experience, I guess, without taking the psilocybin. And then a few days later, a week or so later, you're back there and you're doing it for real. So all of these things are really kind of just really getting your bearings, so you know where you are, you know what you're going into, you know who you're going into it with, and then you throw psilocybin in the mix after that. But I don't know how much more information you want. It's just really, one of the doses was 2 capsules of psilocybin, and the guides are there with you all the time. So yeah, there was always somebody there, and I think that's a really important thing to stress. Really, is that yes, you could, if you're suffering from depression, anxiety, now there's a chance you could go out and pick some mushrooms in the autumn. Take them, and you know you'll have sort of deep insight into your depression, etc., and it may help you. But there are so many unknowns in that situation. That's why I really believe that this needs to be a properly delivered treatment for people. That you need that security and safety around you, so that you can, as Ross said earlier, go into those peaks and troughs. Basically, go into the darkest parts of your mind, maybe places that you've avoided for maybe decades or whatever. Past traumas may come up, you know. And if you're in the woods, having taken a handful of mushrooms, it may not be the best setting for that, you know. The second part of your question, sorry. Having, yeah. So. There are so many, you know, preconceived ideas about psychedelics, and I know that's the reason that psilocybin has been used rather than LSD, because LSD's got so much baggage around it, and a lot of people don't know what psilocybin is, so it's an easier way in, you know. I think for there to be widespread acceptance of psychedelic therapy, we've got a very long way to go. I think we do need a shift. We do need some. I think that's happening at the moment. I can see that. I can see the reaction of, you know, newspapers like the Daily Mail and the Sun. Yeah, they've basically taken the press release that Imperial have put out there and largely just, you know, put some sort of, you know, crazy psychedelic headline in it. But the actual content has been very sensitively dealt with still. So I hope that doesn't change. It could change. You know, we could go back to the old days of scare stories and people thinking they can fly or whatever. But I think the way that Imperial and, you know, other places like Johns Hopkins are approaching this is in the right professional way, you know. So that will make it less likely we end up going back 10 years, 20 years, whatever.
I think, now I was also lucky to be guided when Ian participated with that, guide some of the participants in this study. And I think Ian described it very well, but I don't know if you also meant more so the framework, the design of the study, what it actually was. So just very briefly, so it was a pilot open label trial, meaning that there were no control groups, no placebo in this first line trial, to see if it was safe and also measure efficacy. So what was the effect? It was in 20 people with moderate to severe depression. 18 out of the 20 had severe depression, and they were treatment resistant. That means that they had not responded to normal treatments, at least 2 different classes of antidepressants, and most of them have had tons of different forms of psychotherapy, in particular CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, So that was, and then they were carefully screened, no psychosis, no first degree relatives with a history of psychosis, because of this chaotic state can be sort of close to a psychotic and potentially provoke psychosis, maybe, don't know, but at least in this early phase, very careful. And now the results were incredibly promising. They were very good, both on depression, also on other measures of well-being, anhedonia, different things, suicidality and so on. So very promising results, but again, open label, no placebo control. So the next phase that Ross was mentioning, psilocybin version 2, is going to be a randomized blinded control with a standard, gold standard treatment with a longer period. And so on. But what is quite remarkable about this, where it is a new paradigm, it's different to normal treatments in psychiatry, is this fascinating thing that you have a one-off session, just a single dose or something that can create such a profound state with sustained effects. So even 6 months after this session people went through, it's still very significant that the depression scores were much lower. Some people didn't even fulfill criteria for depression after 6 months, and they were, when they went into the trial treatment system. That is a bit where my pessimism before came in, that it's almost too good to be true. So when this is larger scale and more blinded, it probably won't be as amazing, but I think it really has a role for some patients, because it really benefits some. So that's a little bit about the study. And also, will it come out? It looks like it will. They are now coming funding into it, investors in, and not to us, unfortunately, but into the field, and are setting up multi-center trials in both Europe, America, Canada. And that means if all that goes well, then maybe in 5 years it might be approved for treatment. When it comes to this change in attitude in society, I think it's worth looking at what has happened with cannabis. Cannabis, if you look public attitude towards whether cannabis should be legal or illegal, for instance, the attitude towards it was very unchanged, and most people thought it should be illegal in America for decades, and it never really changed. What happened was in '98 it got a medical application in California, so suddenly there were studies and it was started being used in a medicalized way, and from that year the curve started crossing, and they are now completely crossed, and that is why it's being promoted, legalized, used medically more and more in more and more states in America, but also other places. I think psychedelics this is earlier days for the psychedelics, but I'm pretty confident that the same thing is very likely to happen. I mean, if not just science, but actually clinical practice is showing the way forward with these treatments, then attitudes will change, because people don't know that much about psychedelics. I mean, people here might, but a lot of people don't. It's a lot of wacko myths about psychedelics, and that will change when all this comes more out, and if the results hold in bigger trials, which we hope.
I'm really sorry to disappoint you all, but only because of time limit here, I'm afraid that is the end of our discussion panel. Thank you so much for all coming. I'm sure these guys are going to be hanging around afterwards if you'd like to give any questions. And that kind of brings us to the end of today, actually. I have an enormous amount of thanks to give to some people, so if you excuse this list I'm about to read out, please. Can I get joined by Stevenson and Abby a bit, please, because obviously... So much for showing your support and coming along tonight. It's genuinely flattering. Sorry for my list. I'd like to firstly thank Science Gallery and King's College for giving us the funding to actually be able to put this on and hold this for you all. I want to really thank David, Chris, Ian, Ross and Selen for giving their time up for all of this, because it's genuinely really meaningful that you come here and talk about the work and your experiences so honestly and openly. I think it's great that we were all here to have this discussion as well. I really want to thank Robert Carhart Harrison, who can't unfortunately make it here today, but him and his whole psychedelic research group for providing us with the data actually to be able to convert that into music and sound, of course. I really want to thank Mind for kind of partnering us in this event, and all the money that you've paid for tickets has gone towards Mind, who will help us tackle mental health stigma and also support those who need it most. There's also going to be some sort of bucket or collection box thing. If anyone wants to donate anything more to Mind, please feel free. And Stephen, with his really large Mind t-shirt, will be at the door to collect that. So thank you very much. I also really massively want to thank Mark Stokes, who, without him, honestly, all of this projection mapping, logistics and setup really couldn't happen. So thank you so much, Mark. Can I have a round of applause for Mark, please? I want to thank Josh, who designed these absolutely beautiful posters that we have in front of us. They're obviously there for you to take home and do whatever you want with them. I hope you're not throwing them in the bin. I've actually also got. Oh, do that. Don't worry, don't forget. So very much like Southern Audio, who have George, who's over there, has provided all of this kind of beautiful immersive sound equipment for us to kind of experience this track completely so that you're in the centre of it. So thank you so much. A round of applause to George as well. I also massively want to thank Sally Marlowe and Robbie Lawrence, who couldn't be here today, unfortunately, but they kind of helped with the initial supporting of us in this creation and designing of the event. So it's a shame they can't be here today. And that's about it. So thank you very much. I don't think I actually ever introduced myself. My name's Joe, I'm at Senscapes. And thank you so much for coming along. Please feel free to trickle out in your own time. We're going to be setting stuff down there. If you'd like to come for a pint afterwards, we're going to be doing that as well. So thank you very much. And